Welcome to the Landscape Photography Vlogcast. Join me, Mr. Photo Ninja, and Mr. Paul Thompson Photography from YouTube. Every Sunday morning at 10 AM for everything photography related. And also look out for some special guests. Grab yourself a brew, beer, or something stronger, and let's get into this week's Vlogcast. So, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit, Paul? Just tell us a little bit about your photography journey.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know who watches you guys and who's watching these vlogcasts, but I would presume that people have an idea of what I do. But I started YouTube, about 3 years ago? And when I started YouTube, there was only Tom Heaton, or Thomas Heaton, and maybe Adam Carnatch, and maybe a handful of others, and that was about it. And I started YouTube not expecting anybody to watch. I've done previous YouTube videos, which were mountain biking videos and wild camping videos, and got 4 or 5 views. And my first video shoot was done at Porthwen in Anglesey. Everything went wrong. And I stuck it up there because I didn't expect anybody to watch it. I mean, the ISO was set at 6,000. I got spray all over the lens of the camera and looked like a complete muppet. And I carried on in that vein all the way through YouTube, really. And basically, because YouTube back then, landscape photography, there weren't a lot of them. People started to watch, and you got 600 views and 700 views and 1,000 views, and it really, really snowballed. And Thomas was watching me. Thomas Heaton was watching me. We were interacting backwards and forwards, and it was great for about 6 months, and I loved it. But it just started to get to a point where I've got a full-time job and a business, and it was this is a hobby, and I've got 2 young children. And my little lad came in and said to me, "What are you doing, Dad?" And I said, "I'm editing a video. Leave me alone." And he turned around and said, "Dad, you're always editing a video. You're not going to come out and play with me." And I thought, you know what? There's more to life than YouTube. And so I put YouTube a little bit on the back burner. And obviously now there's the whole landscape photography thing is snowballed, but where I was one of the bigger ones, now I'm a little minnow, and there are people that have overtaken me subscriber-wise. But I'm okay with that, because landscape photography for me is not a business. It never was. Photography is not a business. And there are a lot of people that do it for a business and have taken it and run with it. And one thing I'm quite proud of is the number of people that have contacted me and said, "You know what, I started vlogging because I started watching you." And that's good. It's a good legacy to have. But I don't want to be a 100,000 subscriber person. If I did, I would be already. If I don't want to sound arrogant in that, but if I'd have carried on and did the weekly vlogs week in, week out, and did your hints and tips videos and followed that vein, then maybe I would. But I just enjoy doing the vlogs and inspiring normal people just to go out and shoot. And that's really always only been my driver. It's not been about money or fame, or if you can call it fame, because nobody knows us YouTubers, landscape photography YouTubers, unless you're a photographer, do they? I mean, even the likes of Thomas. I mean, in YouTube land, landscape photography YouTube land, he's famous. He must be approaching just over 400,000 subs now. But outside of landscape photography, nobody knows who Thomas Heaton is.
Yeah,
even the millions of subscriber YouTubers, I'm talking the ones that the kids watch. Unless you watch YouTube and you're a fan of them, nobody knows really who they are, unless they've got 15 or 20 million, the Casey Neistats and that.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you definitely inspired me, because I know when I started, it was you, Tom Heaton. There was a chap called Dave Hurst.
I do, Dave. Dave's been round to the house. Yeah, he's a lovely lad.
Yeah, and me and him, we always chat, and I remember he gave me a shout out once, and I gained loads of subscribers, and that pushed me on. Yeah, I used to watch your stuff week in, week out. So
yeah, thanks, mate.
I was
you were the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to look forward to watching your videos. Yeah, and I still do. You know, but
yeah, I've not had one out. The last time I put one out was January, I think. Yeah,
been out on your push bike.
Yeah, I did. I went
Yeah.
out on my push bike, but I think the last one was at Bowl Hill in the Peak District. But it's, I mean, my leanings of landscape photography have also changed because for years and years and years, I was primarily shooting big vistas.
Yeah, I remember
for many
that.
years. But now I've gone more towards intimate and woodland type shooting and intimate shooting in general. And to be fair, intimate was always a big driver for me anyway, but I didn't think it would fit with YouTube land. So that's why I was going out and shooting Scotland and shooting the Lake District and stuff like that. But I made a New Year's resolution in January that I would shoot for me, and I would also edit my images for me as well. So I know you follow me, Paul, on Instagram. That is me putting out my creative side. And I was scared to do that on YouTube because I didn't know how it would fit. But definitely, post lockdown, that's the type of stuff I'm going to do. But I mean, I remember when I first started shooting woodland, and I got a dog, and somebody said, "Oh, are you trying to be Simon Baxter?"
Yeah,
and you know, Simon is an awesome photographer. I've got a lot of respect for the lad. But I follow a lot of other woodland photographers that a lot of people have never heard of. And they're my inspiration, as well as Simon was, I would say, initially. But there are a lot of other people out there that are on Instagram that are absolutely awesome, especially a lot of the continental guys. There's people in Sweden and Norway, and girls as well, some awesome female woodland photographers. So that I've really started trying to shoot again for myself rather than what I think might be popular on YouTube, because it is how can I describe it? You can go down the rabbit hole with YouTube. You know, you can start thinking, well, I've got 10,000 views on that video, so I've got to have 10,000 views on my next video. And I just thought, hang on a minute, that's not what I went into it for in the first place.
You get kind of locked into that, don't you?
You can do. But I've got two kids that are very good at grounding me. And saying, you know what, Dad, I'm not really interested in YouTube. That's great. That's a great picture, but come outside on trampoline.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Have you got two boys, Paul?
I've got a girl, Evelyn. She's just 12, going on 25, and then I've got a 10-year-old boy as well, who's been on my videos in the past. He likes to come out with me and shoot, but they're at that age now where they give me more cheek than they do anything else. So, especially the boy. Yeah. How old are yours, Paul?
Mine's 7 and 4.
Well, you've got it all to come. And all my mates, because I had my kids quite late. I mean, I was in my mid-30s when I had my kids. But a lot of my friends had them earlier, and they always said, "You'll wait until they're 13, 14. And I thought, they can't be any worse than 7 and 4. They can.
They can.
Yeah. When they first turn around to you and you say, "Can you do tidy your room?" And they go, "No."
Yeah. Oh, mine do that now.
Maybe it won't be so much of a shock for you then.
No. It can only get worse, can't it? Really?
Absolutely.
So,
what are you? Sorry, no, I was just wondering what you two were drinking.
Oh,
you look like you're on Southern Comfort or something.
No. I'm on the old fashions.
Yeah.
What's that?
Like whiskey and orange.
Good, man.
Yeah, I'm on rum and coke.
Oh, that sounds good. I'm on tonic water.
Yeah, I was on water last week and the week before, and these boys, you know, me makes you feel left out. So
all right, so
get back on the
back on the grab. Yeah.
And normally we film these on like a Monday. And I think, don't know, it's like on a school night sort of thing. Yeah. And then and I thought, oh no, this is a Wednesday, so I'm allowed one midweek.
That's all right. Yeah.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Just to get over the day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
It's been a 7-week holiday for me.
that's it. 7 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Been locked
about that.
in.
Yeah.
So what are you? How are you occupying? I know you got obviously got 2 kids like we described, but how do you feel? You know, the 24 hours.
I've been working 80-hour weeks for 25 years, and it's just nice to have a break, to be honest.
Yeah.
So PlayStation's took a battery, and I got bored with that. And then I'm still editing photographs and stuff like that, playing with the kids, and that's about it, really.
Yeah.
Oh no, I've got an old Toyota Land Cruiser that I mentioned on Photo Nerds. I sold the camper van and bought a Land Cruiser, and the head gasket went.
Oh.
And it's been sat on our drive for the last 6 months in bits. And it was like, you know, if you ever drive around housing estates and you see these projects on people's drives, and all the stuff from the car is in on the back seat and in the boot. And eventually the wife nags them and says, right, you've got to get the scrapper to come and pick this up. Well, that's what I thought was going to be the fate of this Land Cruiser. But I actually finished it this week. It took about a week to do. So it's up and running again and MOT'd and taxed and ready to go post-lockdown. Yeah, so I've been enjoying doing that.
You're pretty handy with a spanner then.
Yeah, well, I am now. Yeah. Donkeys years ago, I said to my wife before we got married, I said, I know loads about cars, so I've got to get you a second-hand car. And we bought this Daihatsu Charade for 300 quid while we were students. And within 3 days, the head gasket went on that. She says to me, well, what are you going to do with this car? So I had to change the engine on that. And that was like 20-odd years ago. So I've had a bit of experience.
That sounds like a big job.
Well, it's not in a Daihatsu Charade because you can pick the engine up and pull it out with one hand. It's a 900cc job. It's like a big motorbike engine.
A bit worse than a Land Cruiser, isn't it?
Well, yeah, 3-litre engine's a bit different.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about woodland photography. Is that your favourite place to be?
My favourite shooting in general is intimate shots that work well from an artistic point of view, that you can then do some subtle post editing to create what you see in your mind's eye without going too far away from what the original image looked like. And one of my little bugbears when you see people who edit woodland images, not even woodland images, but images in general, and they say, oh, well, I've really not done that much post-processing. And you think, well, you have. Because that's not how the shot will have looked at. Because that's where I made the mistake with woodland. Is I was thinking, how come such and such can get an image, and he says that he got that straight out of camera, and I take the same picture with polarizer on, with the polarizer off, and all those different scenarios with camera settings, and it doesn't look like that when I take it out of camera, when I get it back on in the editing suite. And it's not. But with woodland shooting, you are post processing, but you post processing subtly, and you're doing something completely different than you would with a Grand Vista shot. So if I took because what I've done is I've done what what's he called? Mark Littlejohn done in respect that I'll get a preset that works with the woodland image or settings, and then I'll make a preset out of it.
Yeah.
And then when I get a new woodland image, I'll put that in, and then I'll try the preset, and I've learned that way, and then I'll tweak those presets to make them work. But if I take that preset for a woodland shot and then transpose it into a Grand Vista shot, it just doesn't work. Because my settings, and I predominantly use Lightroom. Very rarely do I use Photoshop. I'll use Photoshop maybe to add some. I'm going to get it wrong. Gaussian blur.
Yeah.
That's it, Gaussian blur. To add a little bit, but I'm very, very subtle with that. I'll never go above 12%. So add a little bit, but the majority of what I do is in Lightroom. But those sliders, so for example, in my bigger vista shots, I may take my shadow sliders to the right a little bit, my highlight sliders to the left a little bit. And I'm very careful with the blacks, and I'm very careful with the whites. But in woodland shots, I'm heavy on the blacks, I'm heavy on the shadows, and I'm taking the shadows the other way. So I'm taking the shadows to the left-hand side. My contrast, I don't make my woodland shots contrasty at all. I'll normally decontrast the shot. So, and then I'm then also a great believer in subtle split toning with my woodland shots as well. So 99% of my woodland shots have got some form of split toning, and that's where I've created a style with my woodland images, Paul. If you've gone on Instagram, you'll see that the rusty tones is split toning, but you can't just achieve that rusty look just with split toning alone. You've got to emphasize it. And years and years ago, and I still do it, but I've not done as much as I should do. I paint, so I do oil painting. Yeah, and the problem, well, it's great because when you're doing your post-processing with woodland images, you can use that knowledge to get the type of shot that you're after. So you'll see that with some of the shots, and one of the presets is called Constable, after John Constable, the painter, because it looks like Constable-esque, that preset. But the problem is because I come from a background where I've done painting, my thoughts on how a photograph should be is maybe different to the way, I'm not going to say traditionally, but the way that digital photography has gone in recent years. So, for example, everything pin sharp front to back. That doesn't happen with a landscape painting. A landscape painting, the way that you create depth in the landscape is by having that haziness going maybe in the initial foreground to your pin sharp area of interest in the painting, and then it hazes off into the background. So I don't make my Grand Vista shots pin sharp front to back, and I've been criticised on that in the past. Well, your image is not sharp. Well, actually it is. But what my image is doing is the area of focus is sharp, but I'm not that concerned. And that was a big thing with the woodland shots, particularly because unless I focus stacked the image, which is very difficult to do in woodland, especially if things are moving. Yeah. And also I like to hand hold a lot as well. And so it's impossible in that situation. But so if you look at some of my woodland images, certain parts of the foreground may be a little bit soft, whereas the emphasis is a little bit sharper, or is sharp. And I was very reticent to put out those images for fear of people saying, "Oh, well, I don't like that image because your foreground's not sharp." But I've learned that you can actually use that to your advantage. I'm sorry to rattle on.
No, at all. You crack on. It's interesting to hear.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not hogging it.
No, not at all. It's really interesting to hear. It is. I mean, I've noticed a lot of your woodland shots lately, and they're lovely. They've got that kind of painterly feel about them, I think.
Yeah. And I know that there's YouTubers that have been on and done hints and tips on painterly images, and I can swear hand on heart that I didn't watch those videos and then think, right, that's what I'm going to do.
No, because it was way before that.
It was, yeah. But to be fair, those videos are hitting, are ticking a lot of the boxes. If you want a painterly style image, then that clarity slider will work well. So will the dehaze slider as well in Lightroom. You've got to be subtle with it, and but I think the key, because a lot of people will say you create a lot of depth in your woodland images, and I said, and the key is we're always scared, aren't we, to have things that are too black in an image. Yeah. Well, with woodland, with those shadows, you really do want those darks to be dark or even black, even to the point where they're completely black. Because that creates that depth and also emphasizes the textures in the image. In my opinion, that's it's always an opinion, and it's artistic and it's subjective, isn't it?
Yeah,
yeah. You're I follow you on Instagram as well, and I noticed I do. You can see a pattern with your with the way that your tones and everything. So it's interesting to see. It's interesting to hear how you achieve that, and how
exactly,
like consistently, like like with your presets.
Yeah, I mean, and I know, like as I say, the thing with the preset is I must have about 20 different presets now, and some of them are variation on themes. So, like as I said, Constable, I've got Constable 1, I've got Constable 2, I've got Constable 3. And I'll put them in, and some of them often they might not work as that preset, but that preset is the starting point to just tweak things a little bit. But as I say, Mark Littlejohn, and I've got a lot of time for Mark. I mean, obviously he won Landscape Photography of the Year, but he's an awesome photographer, and his presets are sublime. And I'm not putting myself in Mark Littlejohn's league at all, but I was always a little bit reticent of presets.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, oh, well, presets, you can buy 100 of them, can't you? But I have bought presets in the past, and they just didn't work for me at all. But I haven't got a problem with people buying them. But the thing is I could do a YouTube video on my presets and how I edit those images. But, it's like a painter showing you how they paint. What will happen is everybody else will start following that
pattern,
that style, and really that's I don't want to sound but that's my style. Do you understand me?
Yeah.
And there are people, Lee Dory's another awesome woodland photographer.
I follow him,
and he's got his style, and if you look at some of my woodland images and some of his woodland images, they're similar, but so there will always be an overlap, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
As regards, because there's only so much you can do with Lightroom, and there's only so much you can do with Photoshop, and there's only so much you can do with the woodland image. But it's so I haven't got a problem with that. But if I showed everybody all my hints and tips as to get my woodland shots, then what they'd be doing is they'd be Paul Johnson. They wouldn't be themselves. So we'll be doing a few videos to show people what I do, but I won't go into the details of everything that I do. If you.
Yeah. No, you don't want to give away the recipe, really.
No.
Have a bit of mystery, haven't we?
Yeah, because I think what it'll do is I've developed a style by trial and error, and what's so easy, especially in today's day and age, is we can get everything handed to us on a plate, can't we? And then it doesn't become your style, and I think that can then curtail your creativity. If you think, right, that's easy. Then it's not really you anymore. So, if you look at Littlejohn, it's Littlejohn. If you look at Baxter, it's Baxter. If you look at Lee Dory, it's Lee Dory. So, these guys have got their own inimitable style.
Yeah.
Because of their editing techniques. That's my personal opinion. And also the fact that they're awesome because don't get me wrong, a bad image, you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. So if the image is not working in a woodland shot or any shot, no amount of post-processing is going to make it nice. Now, the people with Littlejohns, the Dorys, Neil Burnell as well, God, he's amazing. But all those guys know how to get an image. And I'm not talking about clicking a shutter here. I'm talking about using the settings on the camera to get what they want in that depth and with the lighting at the right time of day. So they've got that blank canvas, which is the negative positive in Lightroom, that raw file to work with. Yeah. And then they add things on top. But if they took an image that was not technically good when they took it, they wouldn't be able to do what they do in post-processing, if that makes sense.
Definitely. Yeah, you got to have all the tools there. You got to have all the part components, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly.
and there's not many components you can fake, I would say.
No, there isn't. I mean, if you shoot at the wrong time of day, then you'll find that your highlights, you can't do anything with those highlights because they're too bright. Now, that's the whole idea is it, and if you go into these woodland YouTube videos, everybody talks about you've got to use a polarizer. Well, I very rarely use a polarizer in my woodland shots. I do use it, but rarely, because I go out at the time when those highlights are not going to be so bright that I need to require a polarizer.
Yeah. So how do you feel about eliminating skies in your woodlands? Is that something that you
at the beginning again, because you read books and you watch YouTube videos, you think to yourself, I've got to eliminate sky, and that was another problem. When I tried eliminating sky in all my shots, then I got to the point that the shot looked nothing. So that's where the creativity's come in. Actually, I don't care less what the hints and tips tell me. I'm going to shoot for me, and I'm going to see if I can get that to work. Now, if you shoot the sky and it's blown out, then there's nothing you can do with it, and it will become distracting. But if you can make sure that it isn't, so you've got all the pixels there to play with, you can then, with your split toning, with the white balance and with the highlight slider and the white slider, you can eliminate the harshness of the sky in the image, in the shot. And if you can't, go black and white.
What sort of, if you've got like a favourite focal, I know it's a bit of a broad question really, but if you've got like a favourite focal length that you use or you go to?
50 mil.
50 mil.
That's my favourite. It's so much so that I bought 50 mil prime, thinking to myself, right, what do you guys shoot? Which cameras?
I've got a Nikon crop.
Right. And yourself, Paul?
Sony full frame.
Sony. Yeah, so Nikon do a really cheap 50 mil prime lens. Yeah, and I thought, and everybody raved about it. Now I've got, normally on my camera when I'm out in the woods, I've got a 24-70 lens on. So I thought I'll buy a 50 mil prime because it's lighter, easy to carry around. Yeah. And I have been tempted as well to go for a crop sensor camera for the woods as well. But I don't really want to go to the expense of buying another body and all the hassle for that. So I bought this 50 mil prime and I did a lot of testing, and it's no better from a sharpness point of view, in my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, than the 24-70. So the 24-70 is really, really convenient. But my 50 mil is my go-to. So anywhere between 50 and 70 mil is normally what I'll shoot at. And I do shoot with the telephoto lens at 100, 120 mil as well, but rarely. It's primarily between 50 and 70 mil.
And that's obviously just to help you try and compress the scene?
The thing is I think there are two types of photographers. There are photographers that have learned technically how to shoot and how the rule of thirds and stuff like that. And the great thing about YouTube and online is that there's so much information out there to help photographers, and I think it's absolutely amazing. But I started back in the day where you had to go to the library and get a book out or buy a book. As simple as, and that was it. And I started pre-digital, so I started with analog cameras. So I go by feel when I take my images. I'm not thinking about rule of thirds. I'm not thinking about, well, this focal length may or may not work. Basically, it's with all my shooting, it's all trial and error. So what looks good when I look through the viewfinder? And one of the things I've got my can you see that? It says I look mirrorless. Because we mentioned on Photo Nerds about mirrorless versus DSLR, and we got absolutely slated because we all shot DSLR, and the mirrorless guys all said we talked absolute rubbish. And one of the things I mentioned was EVF, and I don't like looking through an EVF. And the last time I looked was an old Sony camera that I had, mirrorless camera, and the EVS was terrible. Now, I've looked through the Fuji crop sensor camera, what is it, the XT3?
XT3,
yeah, and it's brilliant. And what's brilliant about it is that in dark situations, I can see how it will look. As it was looking at it live view, so I think it's great. But I'm digressing. I set up most of my images looking through the viewfinder, and I'll move backwards and forwards, left and right, until I see something that I like. But what I'm not scared of doing either is I'm not scared of playing around with aspect ratios either, unless I'm going to print. So I'm not that concerned about whether I go 16:9 or whether I go to an aspect ratio that doesn't really exist, as long as it works for the shot. And the other thing is I'm not worried about cropping my images. So when I take a shot, the advantage with the full frame camera is that I'm getting a lot of information that I can play around with. And I'd say 90% of my images I'll crop, but then out of those 90%, I'd say 80% of them I'm almost at what I saw in the camera. So don't know what you guys are like when you post-process, particularly woodland, but I'll mess around with the crop, and then I often go to what I'd originally had.
Zoom in and out and in and out.
Take little elements off in and out. So there are proponents of woodland images or woodland shooting that will talk, and they'll say that they've got to make sure that everything looks right from a compositional point of view. So the foreground looks right, and that leaf's right in that corner, and that twig's right in that corner. I don't go to that extent. I'll just crop the leaf out a little bit. I don't do a lot of taking things out of images.
Not cloning and that.
No, the only time I will is going back to what you were talking about, sky. Elements of sky that are poking through little dots of what bright light. I'll take it into Photoshop and I'll take those out purely because they can be distracted to the eye. But on the whole, the image that you see is the image that I got in the camera as regards taking things out and putting them in. And the reason that is because I'm not very good at doing it. and if I did it, you would think, oh, well, what's he done in that corner there? I can see that doesn't look right.
Yeah, well, I'm the exact same with in terms of focal length. I've probably got the same little nifty 50.
Yeah.
Which is, what's that, about 85-ish on my crop sensor.
On your crop sensor, yeah.
Yeah. And I find that helps me massively in the woods, just because. And I also frame up using the viewfinder, because the screen on my little D7200 is shocking. It's just so bad. So the viewfinder I use all the time, and I will walk around with my eye in there. But yeah, I find that 50, 85, that sort of range for woods really helps me just sort of simplify, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's interesting to hear you say that about your surroundings, your twigs and your branches.
Yeah.
You do hear people bang on about cleaning the edges up.
Yeah.
And always pushing you, aren't they? Always pushing you to think about, the whole frame. Yeah. But yeah, it's quite interesting to hear you.
I think my concern for anybody, and my advice for anybody is when you start, particularly if you're out shooting in the woods or anywhere, I mean, it makes a big difference for your grand vista shots. If you've got half a tree in there, it's just going to look appalling. And you're going to have to crop it out because you're not going to be able to live with it, and then you could ruin your whole shot. But in the woods, there's so much to look at. But then again, from a compositional point of view, that's where woodland images, it turns on its head a little bit, because it's not about the things that we learn for grand vista shots. It's about textures and contrast and how the light subtly works within the image that makes the shot, not necessarily the focal point itself, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
So, and if you're concentrating then on that leaf on the left-hand side or that twig on the right-hand side, then you may then miss the bigger picture, which is the shot itself that you've got. And that's what worries me with all. And that goes back to those presets thing when we were talking about it being my style. Is what I try and encourage people with YouTube and in general is to go out and practice yourself and see what works and what doesn't work. It's great to go and get these hints and tips and watch people on YouTube, but go out and practice, and you'll see what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I don't know about yourself and Paul. I'm self-taught, and I learned from just going out on the camera and then watching YouTube.
Yes,
and getting inspiration, you know, and then going out on the camera again.
Yeah. I think you're dead right. But I know that with if you watch the woodland tutorial videos, they all follow the same pattern, don't they? They all say, oh, you've got to get order out of chaos. I disagree with that. The woodland is chaotic, and if you can embrace that chaos and not try and make order out of it, you'll get order out of it somehow. And the other thing is you've got to use a polarizer. You've got to use a tripod. Well, no, you don't. You know, try it without a polarizer and see how your images turn out. Try it with your ISO set at 1000 and go handheld, and take that restriction of having a blooming a tripod stuck to you, getting stuck in brambles and tripping over tree roots and stuff, and restricting where you can get your composition, and just shoot. So, and the great thing about woods again is if you shoot at ISO 1000 out in a Grand Vista shot, it's going to look noisy, and people are going to say that's noisy. In woods, it emphasizes the texture within the woodland. But it depends what you want. So, you know, the likes of Simon Baxter, his images are crisp and sharp and subtle and ethereal. Shooting handheld at higher ISO won't work for Simon Baxter because that's not Simon Baxter's style. But not all of us are at that level. But if people are going out and want to shoot woodland, don't let the fact that you think you've got to have a tripod on your camera or a polarizer on your camera hold you back.
Yeah. No, definitely not. Definitely not. So when you see these, how do you spot these little scenes? I know in my instance, I tend to see things in the distance, which obviously I suppose helps me with 85 focal range because I'm already looking that far. Do you spot things in the distance, or are you out walking your dog and you think, I'll come back?
It goes back to landscape painting. I'm looking for light or texture or contrast or colours to lead me through the scene, because you're wanting to create depth within an image. And if you shoot in a Grand Vista shot, you've got your foreground, you've got your midground, you've got your mountains in the background, you've got your lake in the midground, you've got your foreground elements. It works. In woodland, the image can look flat, and that's where a lot of people trip up. They shoot the shot and they think, well, it just looks like a load of messy trees, and that's when your lighting's got to be right. So shooting at certain times of the day will emphasize that light going through the shot, but the image that you get might not look exactly how you see it, and especially so in woodland, how you see it when you shoot the shot. But when you get it into post-processing and you start to play with your blacks and your highlights, you'll then start to see the light that you saw when you took the image, or the textures or the colours lead you through the image. So I'm looking for a front to back element within the woodland shot, but it's front to back element that's different to a Grand Vista shot. It's the light leading me through. So I mean, you're mentioning that you're looking for something in the distance. Look at what I'm looking for in the distance, though, is most probably going to be light and subtle light that actually walks me through the image, if you mean.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean. Actually, it's that's what grabs my eye when my camera's in my bag. Is something in the distance, and then like you said, I suppose, without realizing it, you've already found your journey.
Yes.
You just got to find what you put in front of it.
Yes. That's it. But the journey with an image could be a tree branch that either comes from you and towards the tree, or away from the tree, or to the right hand side. But when I was looking for elements, physical elements to lead me through the shot, that's when I found it difficult. And when I was using elements of light and colours to lead me through the shot, that's when I started to see things fall into place a little bit more. And it's a difficult one to convey when we're chatting, and it'd be a difficult one to convey via a YouTube tutorial.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is, if you want to see how to take a woodland image, look at oil painters and see how they draw you through the image.
Yeah.
Because they do it with texture, and they do it with light. So you know, you were talking about having elements of sky in the image. Sky and light in the distance of a woodland shot can lead you directly through. You know, it's that old adage of leading lines, isn't it? But the leading lines are light, not physical leading lines.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's the same principle, but applied in a different way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it depends on your shots. If you've got a really chaotic image, you've got no choice but to lead the viewer through with light. But if you've got a structured image, so let's say you've got big trees that are relatively separate from each other, so I'm talking like pine trees or something like that, then that can naturally add structure. And then if there's a path leading through, that'll lead you through the shot. And there's some great people that take those type of images. So Lee Dora is a great one at taking those and then having the ethereal feel with the fog and that type of thing. But that's one element to woodland shooting. I mean, if you have a look at, as I say, Neil Burnell, and look at what he does in Wistman's Woods, Lee Dora as well. But Neil, it's all textures and colours and emphasis of light and how it falls on the image that works.
I honestly don't know how that bloke gets them conditions in Wistman's Woods.
I've never been. It's not far away from you, is it, Tom?
No, well, it is now. But no, not when I was living in Cornwall. It's
Oh, have you moved?
Yeah, I moved back to Wiltshire.
Ah, right.
It's closer to closer to my partner's family. But yeah, Wistman's Woods was only half an hour from Bude, where I was too. And I've been there 7 or 8 times. You know, like when you're jogging down there with all the with the forecast in your back pocket, and you get there and it's an absolute shower of.
You do. I mean, because they're like stunted oaks, aren't they? Twisted oaks in Wistman's. Well, we've got a similar setup at Padley Gorge. In the Peak District. Now, Padley Gorge, 99% of people, when they shoot Padley Gorge, they'll shoot the stream in autumn when the colours change and all the leaves on the rocks and stuff like that. But if you walk a couple of 100 metres up the valley floor, from the valley floor, there's those twisted oaks. And then my local woods has also got those stunted twisted oaks. They're not at the caliber with, you know, the foliage that grows at Wistman's, but they're similar, but they only work in certain type of light.
Yeah, I do.
They only work in fog and diffuse light. Anything harsh, and you've not got a chance of getting an image unless it's black and white.
Yeah, it's there's big boulders as well. Good granite boulders, so the foreground's quite messy. Yeah. Unless you can pick out, you know, a big boy in the foreground. But yeah, you are right. You need and the canopy's very thin, so you get lots of light in there when you don't want it. And
then that's the shot ruined, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, no, Neil's stuff's amazing.
He's really good at what he does, isn't he?
Yeah.
Did you see the one that he won the Sony Award with? He called The Executioner. It was like one of these machines that debarks a tree, and his post processing was absolutely amazing, beautiful. But how clever to think And I'm not a great one for naming my images, but it worked perfectly. I mean, he said sending shivers up my spine that thinking about that image, because I just thought, so clever. Perfectly executed, perfectly processed, very clever image to even think about taking the shot, and an awesome name. It called The Executioner.
That is a classic. That is a classic story journey, isn't it? From start
very
to
much so. Very much so.
If you was like we talked about earlier about trying to portray the journey.
Yeah.
If you show someone that image and that sums it up, I would say.
It does. It does. And no one really won.
The atmosphere. I don't know. It's the atmosphere. He seems to conjure. I know he does. You've got that weather.
Yes.
But he's very good at.
But there's a lot of people that shoot Wistmans with that weather. They don't get what he gets. They don't get it the way he gets it. Yeah. And obviously there's compositional elements, so his composition's right. He's got a natural eye. I mean, the thing is I play golf, and I've always worked very hard at my golf game, but I'm not a natural golfer. And there are people who play off scratch, who just know what to do, pick up a golf club and hit it. I practiced. And I think you've got that element with photography as well. You can learn the art of photography. And Gary Goff's very, very big on that. He says you can teach people how to take images, and you can. But there are a certain small proportion of people that have got a natural eye for an image, and they think that just looks right. And Neil's one of those. He knows it just looks right, and then his post-processing is subtle but sublime, and he's very clever with naming them as well.
Yeah,
definitely. Fantastic.
Yeah, he's absolutely amazing. Yeah, I'm definitely. I'll definitely go with that about what you just said about some people just have it.
Yeah, they do that. They have that natural eye for an image. Yeah, and that's not to put people off that don't. You can learn it. You can learn it, and that's the great thing about photography. At the end of the day, a camera, it just accepts light, and as long as you know your settings and everything else. But I think then even people, if you try and be too technical with it, and you're thinking about those rules of thirds, and you're thinking about your Fibonacci, and you're thinking about all that, it can put you off a little bit. And as I say, it's that creative element to.
It's
quite overwhelming, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, you get overwhelmed by all the settings and the technical details, and you forget about your purpose for being there.
Yeah,
what you're actually looking for.
I know. Have you done any workshops, Paul?
Have I been on any workshops?
Have you done any? Have you hosted?
No, I haven't. I've taken a couple of people out free of charge.
Yeah.
But again, it's not a business for me.
No.
So it's not been something that I've really.
I've only done a few.
Yeah.
But that's been a very common theme. Is people just get so overwhelmed with all these things that they have to do, or they think they have to do, and they're rushing around. And I said, well, hang on a minute. You don't need to rush around.
No.
We're not shooting the NFL. We're not shooting the Super Bowl.
No.
You can go and walk around, and if it takes us an hour to get one picture and we get a crap picture, so what?
But I think that's a really good way to teach, because at the end of the day, what's your driver for going out and getting images? Is your driver going out and getting images and telling everybody, look how good I am? Or is your driver going out and getting images to enjoy shooting? To enjoy the whole process of shooting. I mean, and it's something that I mentioned previously on YouTube videos and on Nerds as well, is that if somebody, let's say, goes to, I don't know, travels for 4 hours and goes up to Ullswater for the shot of the boathouse, and the conditions are rubbish and the sunrise don't work, and then they go home disappointed, when there's so much more that they can go out and experiment with, and the shot that they never thought in a million years they were going to get, they walk away with, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's the same at Bleed Tarn in the lakes. Everybody goes for that archetypal Bleed Tarn shot with Langdales in the back. If you go to the left-hand side and go over the little footbridge and go over that way, some stunning vistas that people just don't shoot. And, I've always encouraging people, just if you don't get the image that you want, don't pack up and go home disappointed. Go and try that intimate shot, or go into the woods and shoot some trees, or shoot a rock with water going over it, and just one rock, and slow it down. Put it in black and white and stick it on your wall. You'll be well impressed.
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
it.
Yeah. So I mean, I've been criticised in the past about going on about bucket list shots, and I'm not into bucket list shots. I am into bucket list shots, but that's not all. That's not what it's about for me.
Yeah.
No.
It's not just a checklist.
What's your guys' drivers for going out and shooting? Is it meditation for you guys and the relaxation, or is it something different?
Well, for me, it's a case of we're driving all day, and it's just a case for me. It's slowing down. It's slowing everything down, being out in nature as opposed to hammering around on roads all day. And if I can get some decent photos while I'm there, all well and good. But getting out's half of it for me. Just getting outside. I mean, when I was first started, I mean, I trained to be like a countryside ranger type. And at the time I trained, there was no jobs available, so I just had to kind of get any old job after that.
Right.
But now that I've got into photography, I'm finding myself going back towards that sort of thing. So although I'm not working in that field anymore, the photography is my kind of outlet for it. So that's my point of view of it. It's given me the whole nature thing's given my photography the voice again, if you see what I mean.
It's a really good driver though, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely for me. Definitely for me is getting back outside and just getting fresh air and good images as well if I can.
What about yourself, Tom?
Mine's very similar, really. I'm a bit of a loner.
Yeah.
I like me. I like just me and nothing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I've got into the woodlands recently. That is like when you get up for sunrise and you go to the grand vistas and stuff, and you see the sun come up, and it is amazing, isn't it?
It is.
But when you get up for sunrise, in a weird way, you don't see the sun come up because you're in the woods, and you see the odd deer, you see the hares, and you hear that old crunch behind you. You wonder what it is. It's just something about it that just sucks me in. It's addictive.
Yeah,
I agree. I can totally get that, and I'm the same, Tom. I'm a loner, and the number of times I've been to an area that I'm going to shoot, and there's two other photographers, and I get in my car and carry on somewhere else, because my job entails working with people day in, day out, and many people, and all I want to do is switch off. So when I look through a viewfinder, I'm not thinking of anything other than the image in front of me. So it's my meditation, if you like. So you mentioned the workshops thing. That's why I don't want it to become a business for me, because if I'm doing a workshop for 4 people, then I'm there to teach and help them. And if I've got once a week where I can go out and shoot and I'm doing a workshop, then I'm maybe not going to get that meditation that I'm after.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Because you are right. This is a completely different thing, isn't it? It kind of contradicts what I just said, I suppose, by doing the workshops. So. Yeah.
No, I don't think it does. I think because what you do with your workshops is you're giving back to people, aren't you?
Yeah. And in the future, my long-term plan is maybe I don't have to lay so many bricks.
Yeah.
By the time I'm in my 50s, I can still walk upright.
Yeah, but mind you'll have retired by then, won't you? Because bricklayers earn a lot of money.
Yeah.
Especially if you can lay a lot of bricks in a day well.
That's it, yeah.
I've never met a poor bricklayer yet, let's put it that way.
No, nor have I, actually.
Yeah, there was an alcoholic bricklayer once called Paddy, who could only lay about three bricks a day before falling off the scaffolding.
Yeah, he was just there for comedy value by the sound.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but I can understand it, because it is a hard job, isn't it? It's a heavy job out in all weathers, and you know, I mean, I'm 48 now, and you know, you do slow down, and you know, as you say, when you get to 50, you might want to be easing back a little bit.
Yeah. Everyone, I think it's important. It's important to do things for yourself and not put pressure on, but at the same time, it's nice to have some sort of aspirations and goals.
I agree.
And I think life. Well, I'm getting all deep here. I think life is like trying to find that balance, isn't it? Between getting what you want and not having to bust your ass and stress over it. So
absolutely, yeah, you're dead right. You're dead right. You've got a good head on you there. I mean, it is. It's just that fine balance, though, because there are people who are out doing YouTube at the moment, and they're all they're so focused on number of views and why is that person doing better than me, and you know, and why have they got subscribers and I haven't, and then obviously the whole Facebook stuff and this, that, and the other, and as I say, when anything gets big, it can become toxic. And as long as you can allow yourself to enjoy what you're doing with social media and with YouTube, and you can allow it to build your business, then I think you're laughing. But I've got to say, I do really admire the likes of Thomas Eaton, who are going out and doing 2 videos a week in and week out. That's hard work. That's hard work. And all the social media that goes on with it. Yeah. I mean, I know that I've been two young kids and doing that and having a job as well is impossible.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. Definitely.
It is. But you know, if I maybe didn't have the job I did, then I would do it. But it was never, as I say, making it into a business was never my driver. And maybe I'll end up regretting that, but I don't think so.
No, I think you have a gut, don't you?
Yeah,
you do.
So.
You do.
Yeah.
You know that it's right or wrong for you.
Yeah. I mean, I was lucky because when I started 3 years ago, there was nobody else doing it. And if I'd have pushed it, then but I know what the revenue streams are like for people with 100,000 subscribers, and they're not. It's not that great. No. You either need to have a backup where you've got previous money from other businesses and stuff like that, or you've got an income stream for something else to tide you over while you get popular.
Yeah.
Or a supportive spouse.
Yeah. That helps.
It does. It does. So I really do admire them. I mean, as I say, Thomas has always been a quasi-hero of mine, purely because I think he's so natural, so natural behind the camera. But, you know, he hasn't got where he's got by luck. He's got there by sheer hard work and graft. Yeah. And he's original. That's what I like about Thomas. He follows his own path. You don't watch a Thomas Eaton video and think, oh well, he's ripped that off someone else. Yeah, Thomas Eaton is Thomas Eaton. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's why I admire that. And the same with Simon Baxter as well. Simon Baxter has followed his own path, and Simon doesn't put videos out every week. And when he does put a video out, it's sheer class. You know, it's on a different level because Simon is YouTube is a portal for him to showcase what he's really passionate about, and he's really passionate about trees, and that's why the guy's popular because you know he eats, sleeps, and drinks trees. You know, and you watch a Simon Baxter video, and it's Simon Baxter. It's not somebody else.
Yeah,
you know, it's him, and that Thomas is the same, and that's why I admire him.
Yeah, it's quite brave, isn't it? You know, to isolate yourself to one genre, but because, like you said, he is so good at it. He does it so well. He stands out like a sore thumb, which is
he does.
Which is, you know, which is obviously what he deserves, because he is, you know, he puts the work in.
He puts the work in, but because he's selective about not doing it week in, week out, and I've had the pleasure of meeting the lad and his dog Meg, and you know, it may take him 4 years before he gets the shot.
Yeah.
You know, he won't just take an image like I will and think that'll do.
No.
He will go back week in, week out, month in, month in, out, year in, year out, and that's why he gets the images he gets.
Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't got the patience for that, to be honest.
No, nor have I really, mate, all the time.
But different personalities and all that, and
yeah,
that's why I'm not Simon Baxter any years, and that's why I'll never be Simon Baxter, even though I did buy a dog.
Right, Tom, do you want to finish on the quick fire? Because we've got 5 minutes left.
Right. Black or white colour?
Hey?
Black or white? Or black and white or colour, sorry.
Black and white.
Mirrorless or DSLR?
Mirrorless.
I knew you'd say that. Landscape or portrait?
Landscape.
Light or composition?
Say?
Light or composition?
Light. Definitely.
Filters or exposure blending?
Filters.
Photoshop or Lightroom?
Lightroom.
Sunrise or sunset?
Oh. Sunset.
Shoot local or the rest of the world?
Local.
Plan or spontaneous?
Definitely spontaneous.
Woodland or landscape?
Woodland.
Intimate?
Or intimate.
I was going to say woodland. Intimate or Grand Vista. You've already answered that one.
Intimate, yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, mate. It's been a pleasure.
It's been an absolute blast. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, cheers for that one.
Everyone can find you on what? Paul G. Johnson.
Paul G. Johnson, yeah, or Instagram. I don't even know what my Instagram ad is.
They'll find you, mate.
Yeah, they'll find you. We'll put a link.
Paul G. Johnson photo, I think it is, on Insta. Yeah, paulgjohnson.photo.
Cool.
Ideal. And we'll put all the links, like Paul said, we'll put all the links underneath.
Yeah, you're absolute stars, gents. And I'm sorry I rambled on a lot, and I hope
not at all.
People find it interesting.
All interesting stuff, mate. Thanks very much.
Cheers for that.
Thanks, lads. Cheers, mate.
If you're watching this, then I assume you're someone who is passionate about both photography and the natural world. Over the last decade, I'm sure you've seen the incredible growth in photography. Everyone has a camera these days, and everyone wants a beautiful nature photo to share with the world. Unfortunately, the passion to capture that image often overrides thoughtfulness. Wildflower fields are being trampled and destroyed. Delicate, unknown locations are being widely advertised, bringing crowds of people, transforming wild places into urban spaces. Regulations, private property, and the well-being of wildlife are ignored in the pursuit of an image for Instagram. If such things weigh heavily on you, consider joining Nature First, the movement for responsible nature photography. This is a global initiative to help recover the role of nature photographers as caretakers and ambassadors of the natural world. There are no membership fees, no ads, no gimmicks, just an opportunity to be part of this global initiative of nature photographers dedicated to caring for the natural world. You can learn more at naturefirstphotography.org.